Hello everyone, today we'll be reviewing the newest patch that came out, and it's a good patch for ranked, not so much for competitive, but we'll get right into that, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a bit. So, before hero adjustments, I will go with the battlefield adjustments first, because they're much shorter and simpler. So, Mlbb gun was nerfed, its range is decreased, and you think it's 3% a little, but it is quite noticeable. I believe now, after this nerf, and the BRUNO nerf, only Ixia and Beatrix can outrange towers, and Layla, obviously. And then ROSEGOLD got an interesting sort of passive rework that now you get every 1% of lifesteal converts into hybrid defense. You still keep the lifesteal, but you just get extra hybrid defense now, up to 50 apparently. It caps at 50 for whatever reason. I don't know how you're even gonna have 50 lifesteal. I guess it's for heroes that have lifesteal in their kit that can like abuse that. And then they changed the base stats to where it gives less physical attack and attack speed. So what does this mean really? Honestly, I don't think it really changes that much. It's kind of a little buff for marksmen that build it, because marksmen will get a bit of attack speed. Now keep in mind, you do lose that magic defense. It says you remove that entirety. I don't remember how much it gave you. I think it gave you 40, around like 30 or 40, I forget. But losing that definitely hurts, because you would build that in a counter matchup to like Harith and Gold. It'd be like Magic Blade. So you only keep the passive now, but you don't get that magic defense. Instead, you get that lifesteal passive where it converts into hybrid defense. So because of that change, they made adjustments to DHS and Has Claws that both give lifesteal. Has Claws got a little bit of a nerf, but a bonus in physical attack, so less healing, more damage. And DHS got basically base lifesteal converted from its passive, because DHS you would get lifesteal per hit, but now it's the per hit is reduced, and now you just have flat 8% as well. So DHS got a buff, all things considered, because you get that lifesteal off the bat, and Has Claws an adjustment. Now let's get into the hero changes. I'm not really gonna talk about Lucas, he's not out yet, but Sun. So Sun, I'll go over each individual stat, but to summarize it, his early game is like a little weaker, but his third skill hurts a lot more, and his ult is like a bit stronger, but shorter time frame. So the ult clone doesn't last as long, but it's stronger. So the cooldowns got nerfed a bit, or I'm not nerfed, shortened a bit for late game. And the third skill, you can see here, the base damage increased by 100 early game, and then it gets like additional scaling in the late game. And then you get a slow as well. So I messed around with Sun a little bit. His third skill feels very strong. I've tried builds where you don't try to build as much on hits and you go for like raw damage, and they actually feel pretty good. So people who like Sun, you'll enjoy that. So Argus changes. I tried Argus a few games, and honestly, like, it doesn't really feel any different to me. It's like Argus is Argus. You play him the same exact way. Nothing really feels different. Like, people are gonna analyze every little thing. Like, I've heard some people say it's worse. It might be a little worse, but it's Argus. Like, it's gonna be the same thing as Argus. Now, all his changes, I have not tried these. I haven't played them at all. I haven't seen them at all, so I can't really comment on these. But I will say they do look like good changes. But the problem with Allus is that he's a melee full damage hero that does not have a dash. So already, like, it's hard to make a hero like that work unless the stats are just super strong. So I don't know if he'll be good or not. Zilong, I haven't really seen any Zilongs. I haven't played with Zilong either. That is an interesting change. His passive, you get extra 30 damage if they're below half HP. That does sound pretty good, because the passive is a bunch of little autos. So I wonder if that procs on that as well and just does a bunch of damage. But that's a pretty good buff. Badang, I tried Badang. I don't think this buff is really anything. Honestly, I think it's more of a nerf now that I look at it, because your ult is a shorter cooldown. So early game, you can't spam it as much. You have to really conserve it to where you can all in. Like when you get to that mid-late game and you have your items and you can one-shot, it's definitely really good, because the CC duration is almost doubled. And then Harith is probably the meat of this update. Harith is broken, busted, like ridiculously OP right now. Probably going to be like a first picker ban in competitive. His dashes are so insanely fast, where it doesn't look natural. Like it's so fast where I look at it and it looks out of place in the game. It does not look normal, and it is extremely broken. So like you can just, he will be banned, he will be prioritized. He's the Bruno of his patch. Bruno was Bruno last patch, Harith is the new Bruno. Now Dyrroth changes like literally nothing. It does not make a difference. Oh shoot. Dyrroth already needs more buffs if he wants to be relevant. What they did for Dyrroth is essentially make his passive where it heals less on damage and it heals based on your HP. So you can build like full tank Dyrroth and heal a lot of HP, but then what are you doing if you build full tank on Dyrroth, right? Like he's not a hero where, like after they removed the penetration that he had in his enhanced second skill, they like cut it in half. You just don't do as much damage, so you have to build some damage, but I don't know. I feel like it's a weird change. It doesn't really buff him, just meh. Cece, she got a big basic attack increase actually, and I haven't tried it yet, but I was thinking like maybe if you go War Axe into like endless battle CC, because your auto range is pretty close to your first skill range now, so you could like first skill then auto, first skill then auto, and maybe that would be good, but maybe not. Alucard, a slight adjustment to his first skill. I guess it's a buff because the cooldown got reduced. And I've heard people say that Alucard's pretty good at Queen's Wings, or not Queen's Wings, Rosegold now, because he gets all that lifesteal in his base kit, so it makes him quite tanky. Lancelot, this is a big buff for Lance. A flat 50 damage on your second skill early game is a pretty big buff. It'll help us clear a lot, and then increased overall. So this is like a buff to going Bruiser Lance, because your base damage, it's kind of a revert of what the old nerf, because they adjusted Lance a while back when tank Lance was super dominant, and they made it where he needs to scale more and does less base damage. This is just literally a revert of that buff, or that nerf, because now he doesn't scale as hard in terms of raw stats, but the base damage of skill 2 is a lot higher. So you could go for like tankier Bruiser Lance build again with this change. Well, not necessarily, because the passive was also nerfed, but we'll not get into that. So Carrie, I think this is a big buff in particular, where her ultimate now, each basic attack will just do 40 additional damage. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but in the early game, I think that matters a lot. That'll be really helpful for, you know, getting extra gold plating, clearing a gold crab, or just even if you're trying to kill someone early. And I feel like that's a pretty big buff, and I'm surprised they just shot out that buff with no compensation. Like that's a very, to me, I think it's a big buff. Irithyll. So Irithyll got a buff on her ult apparently. I actually didn't notice this. So the base stats of the ult seems to have been increased early game, or based on the level rather than the damage. Is this even a buff? Well, I mean 80 increased base damage. It seems like a minor buff if anything. So Bruno, the range nerf, it's very noticeable, especially if you know Mlbb gun. It's very noticeable. I don't know if it kills Bruno entirely, but you know if they won't be seeing him as much in ranked, because it is a big nerf. It is a big nerf. So Fanny, I still think Fanny's strong. If you're a good Fanny player, you know you'll still notice the nerf, but like a good Fanny player is a good Fanny player regardless. A nerf isn't gonna stop that. But yeah, Sicilian, and I do think Sicilian deserved a nerf in like the RG and it's kind of competitive aspect, but mostly RG, because you could just pick him and go late game and then win. So they nerfed. I just guess I don't really know what this means. Magic power bonus to end damage. Oh, it's because when you first skill, there's a damage that happens in front of you, and then damage happens at the end. So they just nerfed it by 10% and 20%. So I do think that is all there is to this patch. Yeah, nothing else really. So, in conclusion, my thoughts on this patch, like I said earlier, I think it's a ranked patch. A lot of these heroes, Zilong, Alucard, Argus, Sun, that were adjusted are just heroes that are commonly played in RG. And like Bruno nerf was 100% deserved, and I'm glad they did it. And and the Harith buff I think was way too much. I think Harith is just going to be a staple of the meta now and picked everywhere. And you see Harith, you might not know what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it, but once you see it, you'll understand. Like Harith is just going to traumatize people. He's going to traumatize me, man. I'm gonna look at gold lane and see Harith go shing 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 like a Lancelot almost. But yeah, pretty crazy. A bit disappointing of a patch, I'm not going to lie. And I'm only really saying that because of the competitive aspect. Like, I understand ranked wise people might like this patch, but you know, they haven't really, there's not really many item adjustments. It's just like a tweak on rose gold that's pretty negligible, and then a malefic gun nerf, which is pretty deserved. But like, there's no item buffs, like, I don't know. It's just not that interesting, you know. Nothing really changes that much. It's kind of the same old game, except for Harith taking Bruno's spot. I'm surprised they didn't nerf Revitalize. I'm surprised they didn't nerf Hilda or Glue. I guess it's because they're only really staples of the competitive meta and not the casual. But I thought like Moontime would usually nerf stuff in the competitive aspect. So hard to say. No real change to junglers either. I thought Joy would for sure get like a slight nerf because I think she's kind of overtuned right now. But nope, wasn't changed. Sees, I think he's fine the way he is. But yeah, like I said, a bit of a ranked patch, not really much competitive. And yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Like the video, subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye bye.